There is a particular kind of loss that comes with leaving a high control religion that almost nobody outside of it fully understands. It isn't the loss of a belief system. It isn't the disorientation of starting over. It's something more immediate than that. It's the experience of being in the same room as someone you love, someone who once knew everything about you, and watching them look straight through you as if you're no longer there. As if the person they knew has simply ceased to exist. I know what that feels like. When I left, people I had grown up alongside, people who had been part of my entire world, stopped speaking to me. Not because of anything I had done to them, but because I had left. And in the system we had both been part of, that was enough. That experience has a name. It's called shunning. And it is one of the most psychologically painful things a human being can go through. But today, I don't want to just name it. I want to help you understand why it hurts the way it does, and why the grief that comes with it is real, legitimate, and deserving of far more attention than most people give it. When someone dies, the world around you recognizes your loss. There are rituals. There is acknowledgement. People say, "I'm sorry." They show up. They allow you to grieve openly. When you lose people through shunning, none of that happens. The people you've lost are still alive. They may live nearby. You might pass them in the street. You might see their lives continuing on social media, gatherings, milestones, ordinary events, and all of which now happen without you in them. And yet there is no funeral, no acknowledgement, no social permission to grieve. Pauline Boss, a family therapist and researcher, spent decades studying what she called ambiguous loss, the particular pain of losing someone who is still physically present, but emotionally or relationally absent. She found that this kind of loss is often harder to process than death, precisely because it has no clear ending. There is no closure, no moment where the relationship is finally or formally over. Just a silence that continues, and a grief that has nowhere to land. That is what shunning creates, and it is why so many people who leave high control religions carry a grief that feels unresolvable, not because something is wrong with them, but because the loss itself has no socially recognized form. This part is painful to sit with, but it matters. In most high control religions, shunning is not a personal decision made by individuals who dislike you. It is a system level instruction. Members are taught that associating with those who leave is spiritually dangerous, both to themselves and to the person who left. In some systems, maintaining contact is treated as an act of disloyalty, or even as inviting divine disapproval. The people who shun you may love you, they may grieve you privately, but they have been taught that shunning you is the most loving thing they can do, that it might bring you back, or at the very least protect the community. Understanding this doesn't remove the pain, but it can shift the internal narrative from "the people I love chose to abandon me" to "the people I loved are also inside a system that is doing this to both of us." That is not forgiveness. That is not reconciliation. It is simply a more accurate picture of what is actually happening. And accuracy over time tends to reduce the particular cruelty of feeling personally discarded. It's worth naming how many things are being lost at once, because This grief is rarely about one thing. You may be grieving specific people, parents, siblings, friends you grew up with, people who shaped who you are. But underneath that, you may also be grieving a community, an entire social world that once held your life together. The gatherings, the shared language, the sense of being known in a particular way. And beneath that, something even harder to name. The future you imagined inside that world. The version of your life that assumed those people would always be in it. All of that can be lost at once. And because it happens at the same time as the disorientation of leaving, it often doesn't get its own space. People focus on the practical questions. What do I believe now? Who am I now? What do I do next? And the grief gets set aside. But grief that is set aside doesn't disappear. It tends to surface later, often in unexpected ways. Grief needs acknowledgement before it needs anything else. Not solutions, not reframing, not being told that you're better off without certain people in your life, even if that is sometimes true. Just acknowledgement. What happened to you was a real loss, a significant loss, one that deserves to be treated as such by the people around you and by you yourself. If you have found that people in your life don't fully understand why you're still affected by this, why you still feel even years later that that's not unusual. The grief of shunning is invisible to those who haven't experienced it, which is part of why community with others who have been through it matters so much. You're not grieving too long. You're not failing to move on. You are carrying a loss that most people never have to imagine. And you're doing so without the rituals, the language, or the social permission that grief usually requires. The pain of being shunned can quietly become a story about your worth. If the people who knew me best could walk away, what does that say about me? But that question contains a false premise. They didn't walk away because of who you are. They walked away because of what a system told them to do. Your worth was never determined by their presence, and it is not diminished by their absence. That understanding doesn't arrive all at once. It comes slowly, through time, and through the quiet accumulation of a life lived on your own terms. But it does come. If you are carrying this grief, the grief of people still alive who no longer speak to you, I want you to know something clearly. You are not being dramatic. You are not failing to let go. And you are not alone in this. The loss is real. The grief is real. And you're allowed to take it seriously, even when the world around you doesn't have the language for it. In the next video, we'll talk about something that often follows after grief, and that many people feel uncomfortable admitting to: anger. Where it comes from, why it shows up late, and why it might actually be a sign that something healthy is beginning to form. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.